Strap in, buckle up, and get ready to lay it on the line. This is Not Speeding, Just Qualifying, a podcast that's just as fast as it sounds. Hello, family. Welcome to an all-new episode of the Not Speeding, Just Qualifying podcast. I'm your host, David Lawrence. Thank you guys so much for putting us in your ears today. Before we get started, just your friendly pre-show reminder, subscribe to us on YouTube so you do not miss an episode. We are also on YouTube Music. You can subscribe to us there. We got a nice little corner in the podcast section of the YouTube Music app. All subscriptions are welcome, and like we said, you guys subscribing helps us to build a following, helps to get the podcast in front of more eyes, and plenty more. Thank you guys so much for your help. Today, we are going to preview another major championship that is starting its season this weekend. But we are going to go from 4 wheels to 2. Today, I'm going to introduce you guys to the fastest show on 2 wheels. I am referring to the MotoGP World Championship. Before we get into the meat and potatoes of 2025, here's a brief little history lesson. MotoGP was created by the International Motorcycle Federation, the governing body for motorcycle racing across the world, in 1949. MotoGP is the oldest motorsport world championship in the world today. Yes, even older than Formula One. The championship has always had classes based on engine sizes. In the early years, there was 8 classes ranging from as small as 50cc going all the way up to 500cc. There is even a sidecar world championship. Even though it's not part of the MotoGP bill, that championship still exists today. Bringing it forward to the present day, the championship is organized by Spanish-based Dorna Sports, and there are 4 classes to the championship. First, there's Moto E, which is the all-electric bike championship that competes at select rounds through the season. There is Moto 3, which is 250cc engine displacement. Multiple engines and chassis are welcome. Moto 2, which is the second tier, 765cc engine displacement. There is a spec Triumph engine. However, multiple chassis are allowed. And last but not least, the meat and potatoes of our episode today is the Premier class. 1000cc V4 inline-4 engines, purpose-built race chassis. In short, these bikes are not street legal. They are not for sale. They cannot be seen on public roads at any point in time. Sorry for my 2-wheel fans, but you will not be able to get these for sale at your local Harley-Davidson, Honda, or Suzuki anytime soon. For the races last usually 40 to 45 minutes. Distance-wise, we're talking 100 to 130 kilometers, or 62 to 81 miles for those that prefer that unit of measure. MotoGP also has sprint races for each race. They're held on the Saturday before the main event, and they're usually half the distance of the Grand Prix itself. Points are awarded in both races. The full points are awarded on Sunday. Half points are awarded in the Saturday sprints. You can easily see why people call MotoGP Formula One on 2 wheels. And just like Formula One, they have a mega globe-trotting schedule. Let's run through that real quick. The championship starts with the Grand Prix of Thailand on March 2nd. Then on March 16th, they will have the Grand Prix of Argentina. On March 30th, the third round of the championship will be MotoGP's one and only stop in the US of A, Circuit of the Americas in Austin for the Grand Prix of the Americas. Shout out to Red Bull for being title sponsor. After Austin, the series will head for the Grand Prix of Qatar April 13th. Then April 27th, the Spanish Grand Prix at Jerez, the first of 4 races. That's right, 4 in Spain. Remember a little bit earlier I mentioned Dorna is the promoter of the series. Dorna is based in Spain. hopefully now you're getting it right. After that, May 11th, the French Grand Prix at Le Mans, not on the 24-hour circuit, but on the smaller Bugatti circuit, which many will say is probably better built for motorcycles anyway. May 25th, the British Grand Prix at Silverstone. June 8th, the Aragon Grand Prix, the second race in Spain, before the series heads to Mugello, June 22nd for the Italian Grand Prix. For those Formula One fans, you remember Mugello hosted that one-off in 2020. They're usually the host of the Italian Grand Prix in MotoGP every year. The following week, TT Circuit Assen in the Netherlands hosts the Dutch. TT is not known as the Dutch Grand Prix, it's known as the Dutch Tourist Trophy. Pretty unique symbolism there. July 13th is the German Grand Prix at the East German-based Sachsenring. July 20th, the Czech Republic Grand Prix at Brno. August 17th, the Austrian Grand Prix at where else but the Red Bull Ring. August 24th, the Hungarian Grand Prix at Balaton, not held at Budapest, a different circuit in the country that actually hosts MotoGP, and you might get a little bit of a theme of that, which the tracks that usually host Formula One don't necessarily always host MotoGP, and we'll get into a few more of those examples down as the schedule continues. September 7th, the Catalan Grand Prix, the third race in Spain in Barcelona. September 14th, we have a second race in Italy, the San Marino Grand Prix, held at the Misano circuit, named after former MotoGP rider Marco Simoncelli, who tragically passed away during his tenure in the sport. September 28th, the Japanese Grand Prix will be held at the Mobility Land Resort Motegi. October 5th, the Indonesian Grand Prix. October 19th is the Australian Grand Prix at Phillip Island. October 26th will be the Malaysian Grand Prix at Sepang. November 9th, the Portuguese Grand Prix at Portimao. And the season finale, the Valencia Grand Prix on November 6th. So now that we've gone through the schedule, now let's talk about the manufacturers and the teams that will be competing across the span of this World Championship. We have 5 manufacturers that will be bringing bikes to the fray in the MotoGP Premier Class, and we'll go over them and their teams in alphabetical order of manufacturer, starting with Aprilia. Aprilia will have their Aprilia Racing Factory team and Trackhouse. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, this is the same Trackhouse from NASCAR. This is the same Justin Marks, owner of Trackhouse. Trackhouse is in the MotoGP game. They are what's known as a satellite team. Satellite teams are akin to privateer or semi-works efforts. Basically, they rent their bikes from the manufacturers. There are times they do share resources, staff, and some even receive factory support. But the deals do vary based on the team and the manufacturer. So Aprilia has their own factory team and Trackhouse is their satellite team. Both teams will be racing with the new for 2025 Aprilia RS GP25 bike. Moving on to Ducati. Ducati will have 3 teams racing for them this season. Of course, we're starting with the Ducati Lenovo factory team. And then there are 2 satellite teams. VR46 Racing, yes, that VR does stand for Valentino Rossi. He does own his own MotoGP team now that he is no longer riding in the sport. They have a unique arrangement. VR46 will have one of their riders on the brand new Desmosedici GP24.9, while the second rider in the team will be using the 2024 Desmo. The same can be said for Ducati's second satellite team, Gresini Racing. Both of their bikes will be year-old 2024 spec Desmos. But Gresini Racing has been a team that has shown they can punch well above their weight even in older customer machinery. So we'll see if they can do the same this season. Moving on to Honda. Honda has the Indonesian LCR team as their satellite, with the Honda HRC Castrol Racing Factory team. Both teams will be using the new for 2025 RC213V bike. Next up is KTM. KTM has Red Bull KTM Factory Racing and Red Bull KTM Tech 3. Again, shout out to Red Bull for staying loyal to the home brand. Of course, KTM is an Austrian brand. Satellite Tech 3 and the factory KTM team will both be using the new for 25 RC16 bike. And rounding out the roster is Yamaha with their two teams, the Monster Energy Yamaha MotoGP Factory team. And new to the Yamaha fold is Pramac. Pramac was previously a satellite Ducati team, and now they have moved over to the Japanese brand. The first time Yamaha will have a full season satellite team since 2022. And Pramac looks like they are very convinced by Yamaha. They signed a 7-year deal to be a Yamaha satellite team starting this season. So there you have it, guys. That is the manufacturers and the teams that will be competing in this year's MotoGP Championship. Now let's talk about 6 riders you gotta watch out for over the course of this 2025 MotoGP season. Let's start with our defending world champion, Spain's Jorge Martin. Martin has a lot of change this season. He's making the switch and he's taking his number 1 to Aprilia, just like how Pramac, his team last year, is leaving Ducati. So is Martin. He moves over to the factory Aprilia squad. And he won the championship after a title fight with another name I'll mention shortly, going right down to the final race in Barcelona. A pretty stout 2024 season, 3 wins, 16 podiums, and I'm not even counting the Saturday sprints that truly gave Martin the advantage in the championship race. He only retired twice last season. Every race he finished in the points. However, the big story that came out earlier this week is Martin will not be racing in the season opener. After injuries suffered in the off-season in training, Martin not well enough to take on the season opener in Thailand. We look to see him back, hopefully, in Argentina. The next rider to watch, I'm not sugarcoating it, I'm not selling this short, a true legend of the sport, Marc Marquez. An 8-time MotoGP World Champion, and I'm including his Moto3 and Moto2 World Championships, in addition to 6 Premier Class World titles. His last title came in 2019. However, COVID wasn't the only thing that rocked the world in 2020. Marc Marquez began a valley. It started in the season opener at Jerez, which happened to be his last race. A season-ending injury in the season opener took him out for the rest of 2020 and the first 2 races of 2021. But even in 21, we saw glimpses that Marquez was not done. Went on to win 3 races, but the roller coaster continued as he missed the final 2 races of the season. The injury bug continued to haunt Marquez in 22 and 23, going winless both seasons, but last year was his first full season since his last championship. He went on to go grab 3 wins, finished 3rd in the points. After spending 2024 with Gresini, Marquez moves to the big Ducati factory team, and a lot of people say Marc looks reignited, ready to chase a 7th Premier Class championship this season with a factory Desmo. However, he's got a very big opponent literally right across the garage. The next rider to watch this season, Francesco Pecco Bagnaia. The 2-time world champion almost made it 3 straight in 2024. The protege of one Valentino Rossi, Pecco has talent that has been showing literally from the time he entered MotoGP and now has come to full shine in the factory Ducati camp. But 2024 was quite the enigma. How does a rider win 11 races and still not take the championship? The answer? 3 retirements, and as I mentioned earlier, Martin outperformed Pecco in the Saturday sprints. And now with the aforementioned Marquez coming aboard, now on the same bike, this might just be Pecco's biggest test yet as he searches for his 3rd world title in 4 years. From Team Ducati Lenovo Corsa, we now move to Monster Energy Yamaha. Rider number 4 to watch for this season, the one they call El Diablo, Francis Fabio Quartararo. Quartararo was the 2021 MotoGP World Champion, a very talented rider who I think a lot would agree he's been held back by his equipment. In case you have not been following MotoGP, Yamaha has not been the strongest brand the last couple of years, and Quartararo is looking to rectify some winless droughts. He hasn't won since Germany in 2022, and last season was really a rock bottom, not even a podium for him or his Yamaha teammate Alex Rins of Spain. If Yamaha gives he and Rins a capable bike of winning, I am in the opinion that Fabio will be very competitive this season, and with the idea that Pramac is coming over to give Yamaha a boost on those new for 2025 YZR M1s, there might be some feeling that Yamaha might be on the way back up in 2025. And safe to say, El Diablo will be the man to lead the charge. Another rider who might be lumbered with some not so optimal machinery is the 5th rider to watch this season, Spain's Juan Mir, the 2020 MotoGP World Champion, and I need to talk about that season for a bit. 2020, of course, was an enigma. We already mentioned Marquez missed the season, and it seemed like it was the championship no one wanted to win. Up stepped Mir with his one win and his consistently of just grinding out top 10s and podiums to eventually claim the crown at the season finale in Valencia that year. Fast forward to 2025, Mir is now in his 3rd season with Honda, and I personally believe he's another talented rider, as I mentioned, lumbered with uncompetitive machinery, and that just doesn't go for Honda. If you remember, he was a Suzuki rider in 2020, and in 2022 Suzuki's last season, Mir struggled. He failed to get a podium that year. He hasn't won since his 2020 championship season. And now, many are starting to wonder, was Mir a one-hit wonder, flash in the pan, insert pun here? I am of the opinion maybe not so much. 6 podiums in 2021 despite not breaking back to the top step, I still feel is proof that Mir still is a very talented rider. He did not win the championship on just luck alone. He had to ride well and he had to have talent to do it. And I think it's time one proves the critics wrong this season. The biggest question is, will Honda give him a bike that can compete? He and his Italian teammate Luca Marini are hoping so, because not just for Mir to make a statement to say, hey, I'm not a washed up rider just making up the numbers, but I am competitive. And I also am a world champion. I'm not there for no reason. Let's see if Mir has what it takes to reverse his career arc in 2025, and let's hope Honda sees a big resurgence. The final rider to watch is going to be Japan's Ai Ogura. Ogura is the reigning Moto2 champion, and he is making the big step up to the big leagues this season. 3 wins and 8 podiums, he took the 2024 Moto2 championship going away. He caught the eye of Aprillia. Aprillia signed him to the Trackhouse satellite team, and Ogura is set to make his MotoGP debut in Thailand. The question now is, will his talent that shine in Moto2 transfer and show up in the Premier class, or will a girl just be another Moto2 champion that failed to live up to the hype? Let's see what 2025 has in store for the Moto2 champion. Alright guys, that concludes my Riders to Watch segment. We're almost to the end of this preview. Before we go, if I have piqued your interest and you would like to watch MotoGP this weekend, here's how you can do it. First way you can watch the championship this season is through MotoGP Video Pass, available on the MotoGP.com website. It gives you access to live and on-demand races, unlimited access, and depending on your package, you can also access live timing and scoring. If you want the best package, you can pay for the full season, about 150 euros, comes out to about 160 US dollars. If you don't want to pay for the full season right away, they do also have monthly subscriptions available for 30 euros or 32 US dollars a month. Video Pass gives you access to every single session of Moto3, Moto2, and the Premier MotoGP class every weekend, and even the weekends when they feature Moto E. So if you love your motorcycle racing, highly recommend you get the Video Pass package. If you don't want to pay for the MotoGP Video Pass, you can watch the races on Fox Sports. Fox is now the new broadcasting home for MotoGP starting in 2025. MotoGP returning to Fox after it spent time on FS1 in 2014 and 2015 after Speed eventually became FS1. As of this recording, the full season schedule has not been set. However, we do know that for the Thailand season opener, the Saturday sprint will be shown on FS2. The main Thailand Grand Prix will be shown live Sunday morning on FS1. So again, stay tuned for a full press release on the full MotoGP schedule and how Fox Sports will broadcast the championship this season. Ladies and gentlemen, that concludes my MotoGP preview for the 2025 season. I hope I gave you guys some incentive to watch some of it this season, and hopefully you guys enjoy Formula One on two wheels. These riders are daredevils, and how these guys race inches from the pavement, inches from each other, I'm telling you, it's absolute cinematic theater. You will not regret watching a race. Tune in and enjoy. Ladies and gentlemen, that concludes this episode of the Not Speeding, Just Qualifying podcast. Thank you guys again so much for listening. As a reminder, we are on social media. We are at the handle NSJQ Podcast. We are on X, we are on IG, and we are on Blue Sky. Follow us, if you will, so you can get updates when we drop new episodes or some other social media content that we love to put out there. Also, subscribe to us on YouTube and YouTube Music so you guys don't miss when new content drops. And last but not least, if you'd like to follow me on my personal social media handles, I will put those in the description box to this episode. Thank you guys so much for listening to this episode of the Not Speeding, Just Qualifying podcast. I'm David Lawrence. I'll catch you next time. Until then, you're not living life to the fullest until you're going flat out. So long, everyone.